Yeah, you like my new. Hello, everybody. So we are welcome to the Paranormal Addicts podcast. That was my new intro. I hope everybody likes it. So this is our season 3, episode 5. I'm here with my old friend. So we'll start out like we always do. Just introduce yourself to everybody. Just give a short introduction because I do have questions, so we'll get to know you even better. So just tell everybody who you are.
Thomas Patrick. I am known in the paranormal world as the Archangel of the Paranormal. I am co-founder of the Healing Society group Wardruna, and I am also the shaman of the Shaman and the Showman LLC events group. Short and sweet.
Right. Short and sweet. So my first question is, so we can get to know you even better. I mean, for the people who out there that's watching that don't know, we go back like 4 years now. You've been on my you've been on my podcast every season, and we go back a little bit before that. So I ask these questions more for the viewers than I do for myself because I know the answers. But here we go. For those who may not know yet, how did your journey into the paranormal begin?
Oh boy. Again, it goes way back. My favorite thing to say is I go far back. I remember when the Dead Sea was just sick. And, my younger days of 14, I had a lot of things going on as a teenager. You think you're going through changes and just weird things, picking up on stuff, didn't understand it. Some friends of mine took us to go to a college on Halloween, and I got to see this couple speak. And that couple happened to be Ed and Lorraine Warren. And I went backstage to meet them afterwards, and she just skipped everybody like the Red Sea parted, and she says, "Honey, you've been having problems." And I'm like, "Yeah." And so she started talking, and we built a little friendship. So from 14 till about just by 18, I used to go over the house once or twice a year. She gave me some sage advice, and it really was helpful because I really tell people, if it wasn't for her, I think my path in life would have been a lot different. Could I have ended up in jail? Could I have ended up dead? Just not knowing how to control what was coming through. I owe a lot to her, and I went off to college, got out of college, and just kind of always stayed on the journey, started developing that into helping people with home cases. But what I learned from day one, help the living, help the dead. That's all you need to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with all that. And I'm not going to go too far into the connection with the Warrens yet, because that's actually my next set of questions. But I will say this, and we know this. We've talked about it every time you've been on the show. My journey really began. I was born with my gifts. I consider them gifts now. But my actual investigation, getting my feet wet, also started when I was a teenager. And being down here in Western Kentucky, I didn't really have anybody to look up to. That was before that was before the pop culture, so I didn't even have the TV. Only thing I had was Robert Stack, like once a month on Unsolved Mysteries. And
Yes. Yes.
So I went to the library and checked out everything I could, and the school library and the McCracken County Public Library, and most of the books I checked out were actually Ed Lorraine's books. I checked out all of them. I actually have a letter. You can't see it behind me because the camera doesn't go that far, but I actually have a letter behind me that Ed wrote to me when I was 13 years old. Like you said, it was just sage advice, just telling me that I wasn't losing my mind, that my abilities were real, how to use them.
So what do you say? Stick to the plan, kid. Hey, kid, stick to the plan.
That's exactly what he said. Stick to the plan. Stick to the plan. So, but that letter meant so much to me because I didn't, like I said, I didn't have anybody. Now I have. Lots of friends in the field, and just like you, I like to guide the younger generation because I didn't have that. So, okay. So the next question is, you said you've been an empath your whole life.
Yeah.
When did you first realize you was experiencing something different?
I think almost my whole life, once, as a young kid, you don't really know. I tell people all the time, when some kids see their imaginary friend may not be imaginary. When you're born into what's called theta wave, before critical thinking kicks in. So that's really your gifts are starting to develop until critical thinking closes them down, almost like a hatched door. Some people can leave them open. And the next time, once critical thinking kicks in, if you lose your gifts, you always have them. The amount of developing. Some people just close them off, like a muscle unpracticed. And you could go your whole life. The next time that theta wave wakes back up to see the other side, like you do as a young child, is near death. So a lot of hospice nurses say, hey, see, these people are seeing their loved ones coming to them. And the other time, really, from doing study, is a lot of people's gifts waking up after a near-death experience or a very traumatic event. It's always there. It's a matter of your path getting a wake-up call during your life or to maintain it because all your family has gifts. So they maintain that from youth and all that and all through your life. And, noticing it at a young age, I really didn't have anybody until I met Lorraine to understand what it was and all that. It was always there, but, it became stronger once I knew what it was. But it's a lifetime of never ending, getting better at it, doing what we call the shadow work. I'm still a human being on top of it. I make my mistakes. I'm still a sinner just like anybody else. I've gone through ups and downs. I've, tried stuff that didn't work. And, that's the thing about the paranormal is nobody's going to be perfect at it. Nobody's 100% right or wrong about it. But if you keep trying and going forward instead of resting on the laurels of maybe somebody else that did the work, you just got to keep doing the work. And that's what I've done. I don't settle. I know there's another answer. I call myself an open-minded skeptic. I always say the answer is there. We just haven't been able to do the right experiment or the right test or in the right situation to make something a little more normal that's paranormal at the time.
So, I pretty well agree with all that. I do agree with all of it. I tell people all the time, I'll have people investigate with me. They're like, well, I don't consider myself to have abilities, but they're like, I sense this. I was like, as kids, we all have abilities, but like you said, we shut them off, or we're told that they're not real or whatever, so we shut them off. So I'm like, once you start investigating again, you reopen it. So you have to learn how to use it. So yeah. Okay, so do you remember your first encounter with the paranormal that made you say this is real?
Yeah. Probably 13. There was an old home that people would move in and move out a lot in our town. It was that Victorian style looking home, and out of all streets, it was on a street called Elm Street. And just so people know, I grew up in the town of Southington, Connecticut, which some of you might know. On the other end of town on Meriden Avenue was a famous home called it was an old mortuary, which turned into the movie The Haunting in Connecticut, which was investigated by the Warrens and mostly by John Zaffis, who was one of the key people in that investigation. But you hear stories about it, and that's kind of one of the things where we found out to go see Ed and Lorraine Warren is because that was around the same year that I met them, that they were working on that case. But other than that, we went into this house because it's abandoned at the time. It had a wine cellar in the bottom. You could break in because you're kids, you're breaking the stuff living in town. And we went in and I started seeing shadow figures, and my friends are with me, and there's no lights on. I go, what is that? You just didn't know what it was, but just things going around. And each room we went into felt different than the other one. And it's like, you don't know what it is. It's like, I don't understand what this is. It wasn't until years later that I got to look back at that moment and realize, hey, this stuff is real, when I finally figured out what it actually was.
Yeah. Yeah. So my first experience as investigating happened around the same time. We had this trailer, a mobile home. I'm from the South, so we call it a trailer, mobile home, manufactured home, whatever you want to call it. I'm from the South, so it's a trailer.
Double wide.
This was a single ride. So it was in the trailer park, but it had already been abandoned for 10 years. But for whatever reason, the air conditioner and the living room light came on at midnight every night, even though it's abandoned, so there's no power. I mean, but the backstory was, I didn't really know the backstory at 13, but after researching and investigating, I found out the backstory. The backstory was it was the side of a murder-suicide. Husband got drunk, killed his wife, and killed himself. So, and I actually went back and revisited it. As we discussed earlier, I just finished my first book, so I actually went back to the site 30 years later, and the trailer is still there. The air conditioner still kicks on. The trailer park's not there. Interesting enough, the trailer park is no longer there. It's now a Rural King. It's now a Rural King, but the trailer is still there.
Really?
It's like they're afraid to touch the trailer. So
that's funny, because what was there a record of what time that murder occurred or when they reacted to it, considering that stuff goes on at the same time every night?
According to the police report, the time of death was estimated between 11:52 and 12:03.
Yeah, so that's exactly when it goes on. So that's significant. That's significant of that almost like that stone tape, like that moment happened of trauma, and it just sticks and it reminds us on a rotating residual basis. So that's pretty cool.
It was really cool. So so now we're going to talk about the Warren connection. So here we go. You have the opportunity to know Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Yeah.
How did that relationship come about? You already answered that, but repeat it, because we do have Russell. Russell Reynolds said hi. Russell,
what's up, Russ?
If you didn't know, Russ is actually related to the Warrens.
Yeah, I think there's I've heard about that. I've heard about that. Some of my cousins of some sort.
Yep.
Yeah, and but I like I said, I met Ed and Lorraine back around when I was 14, and that was at a college. And then I started going to the house in Monroe. A lot of the times, most of the time, it was in October that I would go to the house, because they would have a private event at their home where they had the old VCR tapes and show the stuff they didn't show on the tours, like the real exorcisms and all that, and the crazy voices that we hear. And then the case with the the guy that said he was a werewolf and those types of things. I'm talking like almost 35, 40 years ago. It's hard to remember all the details and all that, but of course the museum didn't have as much stuff as it does now, but even back then, and just a little bit different, a little more free. I think over the years, with more and more people getting involved in the paranormal, I'm not saying people don't have respect, but as time goes, people challenge things a little more than they should, especially anything that's supposedly demonic, and to challenge that, even in their museum, I think it's dangerous. And I think more of the people that used to go to the museum then were more people that wanted to learn and not take part in that type of thing. But I think it's just freewheeling nowadays, especially like on YouTube and things like that. You got to be careful what you're playing with. Even Ed used to say it, Lorraine, I know there's a lot of things they did to try and help families. But when they did the their teaching and all that. They were trying to get people to avoid playing with things they didn't understand. And still to this day, it's a good thing to learn. A lot of people out there, if you've really seen something demonic, then you never want to see it again. And
Right.
that's why I know when people say that's demonic, I don't think you really truly seen it. And I say to a lot of young people doing this that if anything's demonic, you never want to speak of it again. It's the same thing. You start a fire, right? You got to take the oxygen away to put the fire out. So if the fire's out, why are you giving it oxygen again? So you're playing.
Yeah, I completely agree. I say all the time. I mean, matter of fact, the title of my first book is "Don't Buy Generic Batteries," and it's probably not a demon.
Yes. Get your lottery tickets. But they make movies about it.
The title of my second book that I'm working on is actually "It Takes More Than Wearing Tight Jeans and Screaming It's a Demon to Be a Paranormal Investigator."
Nice. Tight jeans. Everybody's talking about your tight pants.
Yeah. So I say it all the time. We have all these YouTubers, these young kids, running around saying everything's a demon. If they actually ever experienced a demon, they would rip their pants. They're not
exactly. But I think
they're not equipped for it.
Yeah, but their basis, I think, on a lot of the YouTube stuff is if they say something's demonic, I think they feel they're going to get more clicks, and that's how they're making their monetization and revenue. As a business wise, I guess that's good business wise, but if you're a true paranormal investigator, that's not good.
Yeah.
Be careful what you wish for. It may slap you in the face a few times, and just when you think it's done, they'll slap you again.
Yeah, and you can't make something worse. So those people, and I'm not going to mention any of the names because it's not worth it. But if they ever come across a real demon, they're not prepared to handle it, so they're going to make the situation worse. I'm trained. Yeah, and I don't want to deal with it, but if I have to, I will, because like you said, we're supposed to help people. Like Ed said, it's about helping the people. I'm, as we know, and for the people watching that may not know, I think Russ knows. Not only am I an experienced investigator who has God-given gifts, but I'm also educated. I got a degree in parapsychology. I'm trained in demonology under Bishop Long. I'm not just going in there being like, hey, let me get more likes. So I think that's important thing. So here's my next question. I want to get to this because this one actually bothers me a little bit, and I know it bothers you and other people. So for whatever reason, we have a section of the paranormal fanhood. I won't even call them the actual part of the paranormal. They're part of the fanhood of the paranormal that for some reason wants to give Ed and Lorraine a lot of grief right now. So the question is, what is something people don't understand about the Warrens and their work?
Yeah. I'm going to tell you this way, just like any of us, Ed and Lorraine were just like any of us. They got into a field that nobody understood at the time. They're pioneers. They went into something not knowing. They did all the testing and all that. Yeah, we could look back on it now, hindsight's 2020, and say, why did they do that? No, they were trying stuff to come up with a solution, which was pretty much nearly impossible still to this day. They did a lot of stuff, but people got to realize that they did stuff to create building blocks for us. We have to continue the work that they left. If you're going to say anything negative about them, I can't. Like I said, Lorraine helped me. If it wasn't for her and all that, and Ed, I didn't have the relationship with Ed like I had with Lorraine, but I knew of Ed, and I knew the type of person that he was. He was a no-nonsense guy, but, he was very playful too. He had a big heart. But you got to remember, these people are just like us, just like anybody out there. None of us were the best at it when we started. They had to start out not being the best at it and do the work. The problem is people want to rain down on somebody that did the work. But my thing is all these people say about their cases, or if they were there for a few minutes or not, they were still there to try and help somebody. But also, I always tell people, if you weren't there, what can you say? Because I could have an experience, but that experience is for me. Those experiences for Ed and Lorraine to help their client, those are for them. We can't say 20 years later, that's wrong. again, it's the paranormal. Nobody knows what's right or wrong. So shut up. All right. Do the work. Stop writing people's coattails. Do the work. Work hard. Try the experiments, scientific, whether you are a medium and feel things and you could have a piece of equipment that validates it. You know what? I love those people, and I don't care what anybody says. You could say all you want to try and make yourself look bigger than you actually are. Do the work. Stop talking and do the work. Show me that you help the living and the dead. Okay? That's all I got to say about that. And
I'm with you 100% again. As we know, I consider myself a nobody. I mean,
none of us. We're all nobodies. We're in the paranormal field. My significant other, Stacia, says it best. We're no better than the porn industry. People look at us and go, "Where do I know you from?" I says, "Yeah, I do porn. No, I do paranormal." So it's the same thing. People stop. We're here to help the living, help the dead. We do go out. We teach people. We appear at some of these things because people have seen us. We're there to educate. If they look up to us that much that they want to come to an event and be at our table, be professional. Give them some sound advice, just like Ed and Lorraine gave to me those years ago. I remember the days we would sit at a table and exchange ideas and how we can make this field better. That's what's missing. We need to do that. The table's bigger now. There's a lot more people at it. Let's still do the same thing, bring everybody together. We're coming to a precipice in the paranormal where the running around and screaming everything as a demon's going to go away. The thing is most of us get involved in this. We want to help others, but some people get involved. They have trauma. They have things like they get involved because the darkness is attractive. Our group Wardruna, we help people with those types of things. And I know Wardruna is involved in the paranormal, but it's more of a universal thing outside of that, where we could have people that are going through trauma. Sometimes the trauma is so bad, you can manifest your own haunting. And that's where a majority of these home cases are. If you've done one properly, you will find out that a lot of times, just like what we call an egregore, enough people put enough trauma or thought into something, our brains, we don't know exactly what they do. We only use like 15% of them. What do you think is going to happen? What's the other part of the brain doing? Can it manifest something into existence? There's been evidence of it. So why not?
Well, yeah, I completely agree with that. I tell people all the time that because my team, we still do residential cases. I know some people wouldn't wait for that. And my question to that is, if you don't do residential cases, why are you in the paranormal field? But anyway, I'm not going to get into that soapbox discussion right now. But I tell people when you go to a residential case, you have to. A lot of times it ends up being depression, mental or emotional. You have to go in, take it with that in mind too. You can't just. Not everything is paranormal. So, but we're still there to help the people. We're still there to help the families. So find it. So give them answers. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. So let's talk a little bit about your background. How's that work? Do you think that your background in trauma and behavior profiling helps you separate psychological from paranormal?
Oh, definitely. I think it expounds on being empathic, being able to pick on energies and just people's behaviors, but then being trained, behavioral science type of training to pick up on other things. So when I have the spiritual side of it and able to pick up, and then the exact training through, different types of FBI training for behavioral sciences and all that to do the job, they work side by side. That's why I like true crime and paranormal. To me, goes side by side. You really think about it. Amityville, there was a murder that happens, then there's a haunting. It seems to go that way all the time, to the point, I have a new show that's going to be coming out hopefully soon. It's still in development, called Profiled, where I'll start teaching people how to pull apart a profile. And then it's almost like an educational thing where you learn, it's fun, you profile, but then you get to the point where if we get enough education, then we bring in a former or a known serial killer. And then I have the people call in or type in what they think that psychosis of that person is, how to pull it apart. I think it'll be cool because the reason being is when we're out and walking around, you could come across in your lifetime 32 serial killers. It's been scientifically proven, directly or indirectly. We want to see the signs. We want to know the red flags. So if you're taught how somebody's eyes look, the potential behind somebody that might, hurt you or something, it'll help you avoid it. So hopefully this profiled show will help people avoid those negative situations and be able to stay away from those behaviors.
Well, for the people out there that don't know, I think we've talked about this before, but I don't know. So this might be something new between us two. But so I actually have a really close connection with a serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Heath High School.
Okay.
So I was part of the so for the people who don't know out there, Heath High School was the first major high school shooting. It predated Columbine. It predated everything. And I've never told this on the podcast. So this is something new between me and you. So how I knew Michael is I was actually his youth director.
Okay.
Now, actually, if we want to get technical, I was actually his Al-Anon. I was actually his Alateen sponsor.
Yeah.
So for the people who don't know what Alateen is Al-Anon for children of alcoholics. Yep. And as we know, and I think most of the people watching know, I come from that background. That's my. So that probably kind of has to do with my mental anyway. But we're not going to get there right now. We're talking about Michael. So yeah. Michael was always interesting to me because really he came to the meeting because his girlfriend was one of my closest members. And
yeah.
So like when he would come to the meeting and like when we were just discussing and having fun, he was all about that. But when we started talking about spiritual or anything, he would go in the corner. So
really,
yeah. And so exactly 1 week prior to the murder, prior to the shooting, we was at Steak and Shake doing the Macarena together. Yeah. So when I say I have close ties, I have close ties. So I've always disagreed with the police and court systems explanation of the shooting.
Mm-hmm.
So like every other shooting ever, they try to claim that Michael was bullied, Mike, blah, blah, blah. For the people who don't know, I don't know how this turned into true crime, but that's okay. For the people who don't know, Michael Cornell came from a very prominent family. His dad was one of the top and most wealthiest lawyers in Paducah. Yeah. And he was kind of an outsider. He was kind of a geeky kid. He was one of your Dungeons and Dragons band geeks. One of those kids. And maybe he was picked on, but he wasn't picked on by those kids. Coach Bond was the principal at the shooting. I call him Coach Bond because he was my coach. So he'll always be Coach Bond to me. He wasn't my principal. He was my assistant principal. So to me, he'll always be Coach Bond. When Coach Bond was interviewed, he actually said maybe he was picked on, but he wasn't picked on by those kids. And then a year later, when they came and re-interviewed everybody, West Paducah is a small community, religious community, so everybody always wanted to play, we forgive him, blah, blah, blah. Well, they asked Coach Bond if he forgave him, and he said the same thing I do. I would never forgive him. What he did was unforgivable, and I'm not Jesus, so I'm not in the forgiving game. But to me, the reason he did the shooting was, like I said, his girlfriend was one I was actually the closest with. So for the people who don't know, Michael Cornell's target was the prayer group that met before the school. Mm-hmm. He killed 3 and injured 4, and so his girlfriend broke up with him 2 nights before. She broke up with him on Saturday. He did the shooting on Monday. Well, she was one of the officers of the prayer group.
Yeah.
So, and then of course now he tries to claim mental illness, whatever, and I'm sure he does have mental. Nobody in the right mind is going to shoot classmates. So but I mean, so yeah, but so
that would be a whole nother show for me to explain how all that works.
Yeah,
the mentality of that type of situation. But I wish I could get into it. I know you only have like a certain amount of time, and
we got 30 minutes.
Yeah. So, but a lot of it is people think just because you have a great upbringing. Sometimes there's times where you look at a lot of serial killers, they had a bad upbringing or they had a lot of trauma. Or sometimes you could overparent. Case in point, I think a lot of times, and people have heard me say this before, a lot of the schools nowadays, I'm not going to knock them. They're going to do what they're going to do. But being Generation X, there was a winner and a loser, even at a young age. Not everybody got a trophy. And I think at a young age, if you don't learn how to lose, then that creates that psychosis of doing something like shooting the girlfriend that just broke up with you, because it is a lose-win situation with kids that age. When they have a relationship and they lose it, they have to be able to, work through that type of trauma properly. And I don't think they are, especially nowadays as the younger generation. But I'm hoping that we could turn that around as a country, but one at a time. Like I said, my Warjuna group and all that, we work with a lot of children just to try and help them work through these types of things. Not all paranormal all the time, like I said. A lot of times it's families reach out to us and we're able to put them on the right path and be with somebody that could help them. Because a lot of times, as a lot of the shamans that are in our group, people come for a reading because they're afraid to go to a psychiatrist. So they go for a reading, and then we able to break down those walls and get them to the proper psychiatrist or somebody that works in our group. So that's the important part. And what you're talking about, any true crime situation with young kids like that, there is a catalyst. But how are we going to get to the catalyst? Take back that trauma so it's not so strong and in his mind where he goes through killing somebody, but as opposed to say it's still strong, but being able to have the coping mechanisms that we're not giving our children by not letting them lose at a young age to be able to overcome and be able to cope. So that's, I think, that situation.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. And like I said, we can't get too deep into this because it would take over the whole show.
That's, yeah.
But I will say this.
I tried to give you the short and sweet. So.
Yeah, I will say this, and then we'll move on. I will say when they announced that he was a shooter, my reaction was, I'm not surprised because I've seen that. I've seen that in him, and you know what I'm saying. So we'll leave that at that.
Yeah.
So here's the next question. How important is it for investigators to understand human behavior before labeling something paranormal?
Probably one of the most important things. You have to know people's intention, whether your own intention that you bring into an investigation or the intention of the people that are looking for you to help. You have to understand human behavior, because I'm going to tell you, after many, many years of doing this, and you look at all the case files over the years, the ones you could solve over the phone in a couple minutes or the ones that you have to be out there for a little while, it is human behavior. Again, like we talked about, the shooting there, there's people that have so much trauma, whether they snap and shoot somebody or they disassociate and create their own haunting, and they think they're seeing something that really isn't there. And we know that with human behavior, we have to take care of the human behavior first. All right. It's like paramedics. You have your ABCs, your airway, your breathing, and your circulation. If somebody isn't breathing, it's not going to matter if the blood's going to stop. You got to get them breathing again. You have to do it in that situation. We have to take care of the people first. What's going on with the people? Let's make sure that they're okay. The same thing in an exorcism. You have to make sure that they're psychiatrically sound and something else is going on. Let's push it all away. The investigation part should always be the last resort. All right. We need to put all the other stuff away first and make that the last resort. not every investigation needs you to get all the equipment out and all this other stuff. Sometimes it's just solved by knowing somebody. I had a woman one time where she says, I keep seeing this little boy. He's coming into the room. And then I spoke with her, and come to find out 2 months before she started seeing the little boy, she had a miscarriage. So her trauma of the miscarriage, I think, is what made her see the little boy, got her, into therapy. And after she came over, the little boy's not there anymore. So sometimes you take care of the trauma first, and that paranormal side goes away what they think it is. And some people watch too many shows too.
Right. Yeah. The watching too many shows is what kills you, because now you got this segment of people who want you to do a residential, but they don't want you to help them. They just want you to verify. I'm like, but yeah.
Well, I want you to say it's good, so somebody could come out and do a show about my house. Yeah, we've had a few of those. Yeah.
But yeah. So and I like the, I was a combat medic. That was my MOS when I was in the Army. So I definitely understand the ABCs, and I can relate to secondhand. I can relate to the lady you was talking about that saw the little boy, because my mom, I had an older sister that passed away, and my mom would always have dreams. Her name was Heather. She was only 8 months old or whatever. My mom would have dreams of Heather, and in her dreams, Heather was a little bit older, and she was angel in heaven, whatever. And she would always have these dreams, and they were basically to comfort her. Well, the last one that she had was when she found out she was pregnant with me. Mm-hmm. Heather came to her again, and Heather said, she's like, I know that you no longer need me because you have a new baby. Just do me a favor, and they'll go to the same damn doctor.
Yeah.
They blamed the doctor for her dad passing away. Yeah. There was actually a whole lawsuit and everything. So, but it was kind of funny that a baby angel said, "Don't say." But so I definitely relate to that. And we did a residential. And I don't go into much details in residentials because it's there to help the family. It's that there for
exactly. Yeah.
But we did one that ended up being that. It ended up being that the mother and the daughter had undiagnosed bipolar disorder. Yep. And so so you have to roll that out. And when we do residentials, which we love doing residentials, we're doing one March 7th. When we do them, there is a procedure that we go by. We do a phone interview first, and I do the phone interview. I do the phone interview myself, and then we do then if I decide that there's something and we need to investigate, then we do an in-person interview, and then the in-person interview we actually go ahead and do baseline readings, so we know if there's any EMF, any electromagnetic going on, anything like that. And then and one of the questions we ask is anybody in the family suffer mental health issues? Anybody have substance abuse issues, drug issues, stuff like that, because you have to know it. You have to be able to roll all that out.
Well, a lot of times they won't be upfront with you. That's why it's good, because my better half, Stacia, is actually a medical intuitive on top of being a shaman, which helps when we look at those types of things. But again, with my forensic psychology background, it's like I'm interpreting the room and the person. And a lot of times there's pattern to a lot of behaviors, even if they try and keep it from you. Because if you're going to do a proper investigation to help a family, they need to be open with you. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes you have to pick up stuff a little differently and to get to the bottom of what's going on. The first thing is always have the best intention when you go into a home investigation, but also know your history, know what you're going to be dealing with. Don't just say, hey, what's your name? You should know who lived in that house and call it, hey, George Smith, are you here? That way you know what area you're dealing with potentially what could be going on. But also knowing their family history, because the thing is I think with a lot of people, loved ones will reach out to you to try and get you back on the right path. And sometimes they may do it not so nicely to try and get your attention. So we have to know, hey, mom and dad, are they still around? Those types of things. And sometimes they're the one creating the haunting, because you're going through something at that moment in your life, and your family or your guides or your ancestors are trying to wake you up. So it may not be the house. It might just be a situation. People sometimes say, Well, I've lived in this house for 10 years, nothing's happened. But what's happened lately? Oh, there's this new job coming up. Well, maybe your ancestors think that's not the right job and they're trying to get you not to do it. So they're trying to make some noise and get you awake. So there's so many different ways that you could go with a haunting in the house, supposedly, or just somebody trying to get you a message. So there's all these different ways to look at it.
Yeah, I agree. So the one that I talked about earlier, we did the research, and I mean, like I said, there was definitely the mental going on, but there was definitely some haunting going on too. We found out that the land where the house was built, it was a relatively new house. It was built probably 20 years ago. But prior to that, from 1895 to 1920, it was a church, and the pastor of the church ended up being convicted of child sexual.
Yeah.
And thanks to the little girl, she was 8. Thanks to her having the mental anyway, he attached to her, and he got where he was following her to school and everything. Yeah. And so it's very important to do your history. I agree. So let's move on to the next question. I'm trying to stay on track. I drift off sometimes. We know that. So you've been involved.
I didn't keep you up late last night coming up with all these questions.
I started doing this my last 2 episodes season because, as you know, usually I just shoot from the hip, and I end up in left field sometimes. And doing these questions, I think helps me stay on track, and kind of helps me keep an eye on my time, So, but it still helps. So
you're always improving. You're doing the work. You're doing the work as a So that's a good thing. You improve every day, improve every episode. So hopefully this is a good episode for you. And fire away. Give me another one.
With you is a good episode. You know that. So you've been involved in some high profile locations.
Yeah.
Is there one case that really sticks with you?
Out of the high profile cases, really no. A lot of those were group wise, just maybe part of events or anything like that. Probably the biggest one, it might be on there, is the murder house. That case will live with me for the rest of my life. That's one of those onions to peel back, to the point where when we did the history on the house, there was a murder at the house in the 1920s. It used to be tobacco fields. So this family that owned the tobacco fields, there's one house, and then there's a couple houses next to it that are for boarders that work in the tobacco fields. So this guy, the history was he went off to New York for some business, came back, found out his wife cheated on him with one of the boarders, and he just lost it and murdered her in front of his 6 children. So in this house where the kitchen was now this back room where the people were complaining of seeing shadow figures, having the door open and close in the basement all night, where they started putting the couch against it so they didn't have to hear it. So there's a lot of this activity going on in this house, to the point where people are getting choked in their sleep, and you name it. But when we went to the house, the thing that got me is, in this field, the thing that I'm known for is to help spirit make transition, make peace with what's keeping them here, and help them transition by listening to their story and helping them, giving them the words so they can make their own decision and free will to transition to wherever that is. I don't know what the next step is. None of us really know. Maybe a hole opens, they go through. We don't know. I think I'm one of those, I lead them to the water. I don't watch them drink the water because I can't go beyond that point. But you get them there and you can feel energy shift. Well, what happened was I had an SLS camera. A lot of people don't agree if that works or not. But when you point an SLS camera in an area where a murder happened, and 2 figures pop up, and the murder was this guy bludgeoned her to death. 2 figures. One looks like it's bludgeoning the other one to death, like it was reenacting, almost like a residual. I thought it was a residual, but it was almost like it was showing me. And as I tried to talk to it, there was loud knocks on the wall, like as loud as 22 gunshots. And I'm trying to get this guy to stop this circle of trauma going over and over again. Finally, he leaves. In the one there, it kind of looks like it's wiggling, like it's hurt. And I said, if you're the woman and you don't want to be here anymore, I'm going to reach my hand out, and all you have to do is touch it. You could see the stick figure reach out, touch my hand, and disappear. And instantly the room just changed to a lot lighter room. And what happened after that, I don't know. But really, we tried to clear the house. On top of clearing the house, sometimes it doesn't always go right. So the partner I was working with at the time went off to Lake George with her husband, and she called me at 5 a.m. She says she felt the energy of the home because she was, very empathic and psychic medium, and she felt like something was trying to choke her to death. So I felt like we're gonna have to go back to the house and maybe take a different look at it to bless it or whatever we got to do to rid that negative energy. I hadn't looked at the footage yet, so this is like fresh. So I'm like, after she told me that, I woke up the next day, I ran the footage, and there was a recorder in the basement, and all you could hear is this sinister laugh at one point going, and then you hear this metal pipe drop. I didn't like the way it sounded. I was like, well, something's still going on in there. We have to take another look at it. But the night before we were going to go take a look at it, I had a dream. In the dream, there was this woman with a Burger King outfit looking thing on, the old polyester, brown, orange, and yellow, if you remember those for us older Gen X's. But she tried to choke me out in my dream, and I woke up, went into the bathroom. There's still hand marks on my neck. I don't know how that happened. Scared me a little bit. And I'm like, well, I know work's cut out for us to go back to this house. So we go back, we threw the kitchen sink at it, blessed everybody, did the four corners blessing of the land, anything we could think of, and finally cleared it up. People were finally able to sleep. But a year later, these three guys that lived there decide they're going to sell the house. And I think the spirits reenacted, were pissed that they were leaving. So they called us. They were getting knocks on the wall every 3 hours for 3 minutes, 3 taps, how in theory what that is. But, we asked them, do you want us to come over and re-bless the house so you could sell it? Oh, no, we're worried about it. I'm going to be out of here, so I don't have to. It'll be somebody else's problem. So I didn't like that attitude. But the thing is, I can't do anything unless they, invite us to help. So the realtor comes in and shows somebody the house, and they go down into the basement, and the realtor told them after that when they were down there, they heard a voice, or a disembodied voice, say, "Get the F out." So I'm not going to say it on your show because I don't know what you allow on the show or not. But get the F out a couple times. They went running up the stairs. The voice said, "You're going to fall up the stairs." And the guy fell up the stairs just as it said it. They call us again. I was like, if you don't want us to help, why do you keep calling and telling me what's going on? Do you want me to come over? And like, no, don't worry about it. But I think the next people that took a look at the house, I give the realtor a lot of credit for going back after that situation. But she got back. I guess she wanted to really sell the house. So supposedly it's sold in principle. And this guy moved down to Florida before everything was pretty much signed. Come to find out that they did the inspection and found $70,000 worth of damage from termites. So I don't know if the house sale ever went through because I never hear back. But that's just so much that's just a little piece of everything that went on. This house, we felt between 8 and 10 spirits of all different things going on, whether there's some of the spirits were attached to the people that lived there. 2 of the guys that lived there both had near-death experiences at one time. And when they moved in together, that's when all the activity happened. When you had one guy was there, nothing ever happened. You get the other guy with a near-death experience. So there's so many layers to it, so many different storylines. It's like 5 different storylines all going on, converging, a perfect paranormal storm at this house. And it was just incredible trying to peel all that back and solve it Scooby-Doo style, for crying out loud. But it all worked out, and we did the job. It took a few times, but it got done.
Yeah. So we talk about trauma all the time, a lot. I've been asked if my abilities, my gifts, if they've increased since I had my brain surgery. Mm-hmm. And I of course, I was already aware of my gifts before then, but I think that I've been able to better understand them since the surgery. like I actually use my abilities in investigations now with confidence. Before it was kind of like, I don't know if I trust this. Now I trust it, if that makes sense. So
Well, you should always trust it. It's just growing up. You get this sick feeling like, even on a test, you got A, B, C, and you're like, oh, I really feeling B, but I don't think it's B, it's C. And then you find out it was B. You got to go with that intuition, that gut feeling. Your loved ones are there for you, your ancestors, your spirit guides, they're guiding you. It's a matter of listening and having that, discernment to know what you're listening for. There's no such thing as a coincidence. I believe a coincidence is giving you guidance, and it's a matter of taking it in to project you on the right path. Whether that path is for you, it's different for every individual. Even the paranormal is different for everybody. Everybody has different experiences. I'll never tell anybody that didn't happen to you, because again, you could tell me about something that happened to you. I wasn't there. I don't know.
Right.
Right. So
never going to take somebody else's experience. Like you said, we wasn't there. So we got 10 minutes. And I got some good questions. So let's see if we can get through these. Are you ready? So,
lightning round.
Lightning round. So you study demonology.
Mm-hmm.
What is the biggest misconception people have about demons?
I think the biggest misconception is a majority of the time, the demons people feel they see are not what they think. 99% of the time, it's what we call familiar demons. That is our own stuff that we put out there, that we create. An alcoholic, recovering alcoholic, that struggle between not drinking or whatever. There's people, a lot of times I've gone on cases where they said it's demonic. You go in there, it's a hoarder. There's some kind of psychosis or trauma, or somebody, they always see the Hat Man. I've had all these cases where these people say, oh, I saw the shadow Hat Man. Come to find out, most of the time it's females. As they get older, they were abused when they were younger and they locked it out. And that trauma in their brain creates that Hat Man. They think it's something demonic. Really, it's most of the time, it's what we create ourselves and what we manifest out there through trauma, those what we call familiar demons, the things that follow us from ancestor to ancestor. If your great-great-grandfather was an abuser, some kids learn from it. They don't break those chains. That's where Wardrona comes in to help people break those chains. But the thing is 1% of the time it might be the real deal, and most of us aren't prepared for that. And even some of us that have been doing this for years, none of us, I don't care who you are, you're never prepared, but at least you have a fighting chance. People always ask me, how do you deal with it? And I always tell them, I don't know. You know why? Because if I'm in that situation, it's not me fighting it. Spiritually, I'm a conduit through my guides, and what I believe my higher power is going to work through me. And I have faith it'll protect me. And my mouth opens to say the words at the right time to help the situation. So I know there's a lot of people, they say different prayers, things like that. As a shaman, I have to depend on those types of things. I have faith that my higher power is coming through. Yeah, I believe in Jesus. I believe there's a God and all that. As a shaman, it's not a religion. It's just somebody that has knowledge to be able to help people, to be able to heal people in a way, spiritually, mentally, anything like that, to guide them. And a lot of times when you go back and forth, spiritually on the veil, that's the thing you have to look for, the discernment. Because the majority of the time people think somebody's possessed. They're not. It's psychological. You could disassociate and look like and forget time, where a lot of people that said they were possessed lost track of time. It's such a discernment. It's so difficult. And you shouldn't just be throwing the word around, because again, like I said, be careful what you wish for. You don't call out the wrong thing, you're not going to like what you see. And I've been in situations where I don't talk about, and just to throw it out there on this show, again, that side of things is fire. You don't want to play with fire. You'll get burnt. And the thing is, the best thing to do is not put oxygen on it, because fire can only live with that oxygen. So if you throw the words out there and all that, be careful what you wish for, because it'll burn you. And I've seen it happen to people, good people, normal people. They were normal at one point, not normal after that. So
Right. Well, you basically answered all the questions in that group at one time. So we can move on to the. We can
So I
move
told
on
you it was a
to.
lightning round.
So we can move on. You did a perfect leeway to the next question. You're a practicing shaman. How does that differ from traditional paranormal investigating?
You know, shamanism really is not really associated with paranormal investigating. Shamanism is basically you're somebody that has of knowledge, just for healing side of things, just what we do with Wardruna, that ancestral guidance, being able to talk to the ancestors, go to the other side. I'm of my heritage is Celtic. I'm pagan, Irish, all that. The thing is I say shaman because it's easier. People understand that. I'm a farfasa, so that's the Irish. What it is somebody just like a shaman, somebody of knowledge, but also able to speak to the fairies. You know, those types of things. But of that other end, you know, basically fairies considering nature your elemental type of creatures and things like that have that idea to be able to use nature, that knowledge, and anything you could think of to be able to solve things. Is it the perfect thing to bring to the paranormal? Yes, in a way. It is. There is those differences, paranormal with the scientific side of it. There's nothing scientific really about being a shaman, except if you're playing with, you know, healing things with, you know, minerals, roots, things like that, different berries to help somebody with some kind of health issue, make a certain tea. That's not really my side of it. But again, I help the living and the dead, and my side as a shaman is to help people understand that their time doesn't need to be here anymore. If they want to leave, call my name. We'll have a conversation and maybe hopefully show you the path to get to the next level, whatever that is, for a little more clarity to get out of whatever the negative is they might think they're still in.
So this is not a question I hadn't heard, but this is a question that popped into my head because me and you are both, we work in this the same way. We do it to help people, and if they want to cross over, we'll help guide them. I mean, we don't cross them over; they do that themselves. Yeah. But we'll help guide them. What do you think of these locations that we have that when you sign the waiver to investigate that says you can't help guide the spirits over?
Yep.
How do you? What's your opinion on that? And how do you?
I don't know. I never signed one of those waivers because the reputation. None of them allow me in their place. They don't want me within 50 feet of their place. You know, the reputation is what I do. I've had people get in my face, say, "Don't release any of my spirits." Really, us as humans, it's not up to us. You know, you're no better than keeping somebody in jail that doesn't belong there. If they want to leave, if you've ever been on an investigation with me. You pull a spirit box out, you'll start hearing my name called over and over and over again. My spirit guides tell the spirit, if you're ready to leave and you want help, just call his name. And that's what happens. I know I have to go to work. And I know a lot of these places don't allow me because they know I don't give a hell. I'm not signing anything. And the thing is if somebody's stuck, they deserve, just like any of us, deserve the right to make that decision if they want to cross over. So you can't hold them here as prisoners for your own monetary gain. Yeah.
I agree with that, and I have signed the waivers, and I may have broke my signature.
What did you see? The double cross? Did you ever hear that?
Yeah.
So back in the day, people that didn't know how to write their own name, some of these unscrupulous people were trying to get them to sign these contracts, but they became a little smarter, but they only knew how to sign X. Right? X or a cross, that's how they would sign their name. So what they would do is in their mind, okay, I'm signing the contract, but I void the contract by doing another X and plus or cross over it. So in their mind, it's a double cross that they never signed it and they never intended to. So that's our word origin that I kind of do on TikTok and stuff like that, if you've seen it. So that's one of my Wednesdays I do word and phrase origins.
Well, I like that because, like you said, you know, spirits have free will just like we do, and if they want to cross over, we can't trap them there. That makes Not me, because I wouldn't do it, but that
Yeah.
makes the property owner the bad guy. And
Well, the thing is a lot of people don't realize is really if you cross over, you're moving up like maybe a tier for more positive. Just like us, we learned something new. It changes our trajectory. When we die, who's to say that, hey, they helped me. I got to a new trajectory. I'm still improving. Even in life, I'm in death. You know, people don't realize is even when people pass, there's still in theory, the theory is they're able to come back and speak through maybe a medium or give you a sign or anything like that. Your loved ones never leave you. In some of these locations, they're always going to be haunted. You know, hey, who's to say that spirit was needed to leave, and once it left, there was 5 other ones waiting to get that room. You know, you don't know. You know, so what I'm doing at a location doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to stop being haunted. So it's different levels. We don't know. None of us know what's going to happen. And I've been at locations that, you know, there was a house that we went to and we helped 8 spirits leave, and the house is still haunted. But those 8 spirits aren't there anymore. But the house is still just as haunted as it was when the day we walked.
Because there's new ones, yeah.
Yeah. So.
All right, so we're actually over time, but that's okay. We're going to keep going because these next questions are ones I think are important to ask. So, what are your thoughts on how the paranormal field has evolved with social media and YouTube?
It gives people more platforms. And again, you know, a lot of people do stuff. I know they're trying different things and all that, but are there things I don't agree with? Yes. But I believe that with YouTube, I think for us, the more we see the things we don't like, some of us need to get our own YouTube stations and start showing people maybe a different perspective. Is it going to get views? Yeah, we're not running around, everything's a demon, but wouldn't you like to watch a YouTube station where maybe somebody like myself teaches you how to help a spirit cross over properly? It's not going to the light. Sometimes it's just finding out what their trauma is that's holding them back and working them through it, and helping them say, what was your favorite song? Picture that song. Once they do, the trauma goes away and they decide to leave. It isn't always the light. It's taking away what's holding them here sometimes. You know, I would pay to see that. That's just me, but everybody has different things that they like about the paranormal. Let's give them a little bit more than running around saying everything's a demon, which I know gets clicks, whatever. Yeah, you want to make your money. Everybody's got to make a living. And again, even in the paranormal, I started out at the beginning. I didn't know what I was doing. I had to make mistakes. I had to learn from them, just like anybody else. I'm no better than anybody else, but I'm still doing the work and I'm trying everything I can to help the living and the dead. And I can't knock anybody, but sometimes it does get annoying for me. But who am I to say? I'm not the be-all, end-all judge of everything in the paranormal like some people think they are.
I don't want that job, but you know, my team we do have a Facebook page now, and what we do is we don't edit anything. We just put the investigation on there, and you make your own decision. You know, it's not, and no, we don't get a million views like some of the people, but you know, we're still out there. You know, so Sarah, you know, forget Hannah. You know, I had her on the show. We was discussing this, and she's like, Ken, as much as you don't like it, those people have a place in the field. But the people, they're like, but she's like, what you have to understand, the people that tune into that are tuning in to be entertained. They're not tuning in to see what it's really like. So, all right. So that kind of bridges us to the next question. Do you think the paranormal field is moving forward, or do you think it's getting distracted by entertainment?
I think the entertainment's done with it. Really, to tell you the truth, all the TV shows that were on, there really isn't many on anymore. They're taking different looks at them. I think we're coming to a point, like I said earlier, there's going to be big changes happening in what we perceive as the paranormal. I think we're going to be going more towards the healing side of it, seeing the trauma that creates the paranormal and using maybe the science side of it and the trauma side of it and how it works. Because yes, you could test somebody's trauma through science, through EEG or things like that, and how they react to certain things. So there's ways of doing that, but also going through psychology in how, okay, if I show you this monster, is this what you see? There's so many different ways, even with parapsychology and all that, how we look at different things. I think it's going to be more geared towards our bodies and how we react to these things, because a lot of it, I think, is that we're going to get more back into that. And I think that's what's going to carry it forward, because it is different.
So we got a few more questions I want to get to. I want to get you off here, and I still haven't ate supper, so I want to eat because I'm a fat guy and I like to eat. So, okay, so what advice would you give new investigators entering the field right now?
Probably the best one is know your history and have good intention. That's the biggest battle right there. What intention is again, how you approach things. You're going to, whatever you approach it as is what you're going to get out of it. If you walk into a bar and say, who wants to fight? Somebody's probably going to fight you. If you go into the bar and buy everybody around the drinks, you're probably going to be praised. People got to understand that, yes, it's serious to help a home case and things like that. But sometimes when we do these live investigations, it's fun. The more fun you have with the spirits, the more you're going to get out of them. All right. The asking the question, what color is your shirt? Stop. Have fun with them. Have fun. We did an investigation. We were up in Niagara Falls, and the dead bell hadn't rung. And we just say, hey, can you get the dead bell to ring? And on the spirit box, you hear a woman's voice go, ding, ding. Like she's just giving us the sound instead of hitting it. But we're having fun. It's funny. It's funny. And they're interacting with us. We're getting to know them. But just like anything else, you lessen that. You're not so serious, and you're bringing out more of the spirits. And guess what? The spirits are more active. You're going to learn more about the history. They might talk to you more. You open them up. You got to break the ice. You know what I mean? Once you break the ice with the spirit world, you get more conversation. The more you can help them, because people don't know. Do you know the 2 deaths that we have? Have you ever heard of the second death? The first death is when, the first death is when your soul leaves your meat suit, right? The next one is when nobody ever says your name ever again. So remember, when you're on an investigation, be lighthearted, have fun. They may miss having a good party or a good drink or something. Sit around maybe with the drink and a safe, I wouldn't say drink alcohol while you're on an investigation, but just have fun with the spirits. They'll tell you what's going on, and they'll make you feel good because you didn't forget them. All right. You knew the history.
That makes sense.
You gave them that platform, and they live another day for you. And for them, they're happy. You're happy. You got your EVP or whatever in the right way without creating a problem.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah, you gotta have fun. I've even been known to ask a spirit who wrote the Book of Love. So yeah, you gotta have fun. And I don't provoke. We know that you don't provoke, and that's what I tell people. Exactly what you said about go into a bar looking for a fight, you're gonna get a fight. So provoking is about intent. So if you're provoking a spirit, so this is how I explain it. I tell people I wouldn't go into your house and start yelling at you and expect a positive interaction. So why do we do that to a spirit? So yeah, there's a
time and a place. There is discernment. Sometimes there is a time where you have to raise your voice, but that's discernment. That's experience and learning and knowing when to use something. Knowing when to throw somebody the curveball. That's knowing your opponent and what you're up against with experience. If you've never done this before, don't throw a curveball if you don't know how to throw a curveball. So you got to learn and practice and try it over and over again. And then at one point, hey, if I say it a little bit louder, I've gotten results in the past. Let's try it. It could go really good or really bad. I don't know. So you never know. You never know what you're dealing with sometimes. So, but
a good example of that, and then we're going to move on to the next question. But a good example of that is I was investigating a Brushy Mountain Penitentiary.
Yep.
And I was in the
that's in Tennessee, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was in solitary, and I didn't provoke, but I did use a sermon. I I raised my voice,
Yep.
authoritative, and I got more reaction. And so like you said, it's knowing what you do. It's all about experience. So that's the leeway to this question. After 40 plus years in the field, do you feel like you're closer to answers, or just have more questions?
Well, you know something? Just when you think you know the answer, there's a new question. So it's the never-ending battle. That's the great thing about the paranormal. And also I do, the true crime profiling. You never know somebody's mind, what they're going to do. You can have a pattern, but everybody has that fingerprint. Everybody's different. You don't know what you're going to be up against. That's why we have a hard time catching people, serial killers and things like that. But even in the paranormal, we never know what's going to happen. And just when we think we have the answer, again, here goes that curveball. We don't know. It's something new we have to learn and reapproach it. But again, we're at the precipice here, just like medical science and all that. Years ago, doctors used to think bloodletting would cure everybody. Now we know it doesn't. But in the paranormal, if we keep trying things, then we're going to look back at something that we did where people give the Warrens a hard time. The Warrens were at a point where they were bloodletting. They thought it would work at the time. Were they wrong? No, they were doing what was done at the time. So we can't look back and say, hey, you were a bunch of idiots. That's what they had at the time. So when we keep trying things off the building blocks of what those people gave us, that's what we keep battling day in and day out. Keep trying things. Don't stop working to find answers. I'm going to be long gone if there is any answers, maybe hopefully in the afterlife, I could come back and help people get the answers. I don't know. That's the only thing I can really tell you.
Yeah. So I agree with that. I tell people that I'm going to be investigating as long as I can hold a flashlight and a voice recorder. I tell them that I want to keep, I want to keep investigating until paranormal is no longer pseudoscience, but an actual recognized science. Yeah. That probably won't happen in my lifetime, but but that's kind of my point. So we got two more questions. These are the easy questions. Are you ready?
Okay.
Where can people find you and follow you and follow your work?
I don't want anybody to find me. No. Well, no. Our www.wardruna.net is our healing group. I am part of the Shaman and the Showman, so we always have stuff up. CT Paracon. Paracon.org to see what's going to be coming up. Salem Paracon, Connecticut Witch Festival, Connecticut Psychic Fairs. I'm out in Ohio now, so we have a lot of things that are going to be coming up. The Cleveland Paracon I'll be at this year. New Orleans Paracon will be at this year with Wardruna. The Hollow Paracon and Film Festival in New Jersey. All kinds of different things. A lot of stuff at Hillview Manor, Haunted Hillview Manor in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. We got a lot of things this year with them. It's for my partner. It's a home base for her, so we do a lot of things there. My good friend Johnny Zaffis will be up there to do an event with us, so we're excited about that. And then on end of the month, we are doing some work with a influencer group called Culture Swap out of Cleveland. We're bringing them to Newcastle, Pennsylvania, to do a ghost hunt, which is part of, if anybody's ever seen them, they got over 1 million viewers. So it's different than the paranormal. So we're trying to bring all those communities together. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be live on February 27th. So be on the lookout for that. We'll be advertising that. It's going to be fun and funny. We got something up our sleeve for those guys, and it's going to be quite great once we pull it off. So make sure you're watching that. But Thomas Patrick on Facebook, Archangel of the Paranormal on TikTok and Instagram. I do videos on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Tuesday, it's Tuesday morning serial. I'll give you a little tidbit about serial killers. Wednesday is fantastic phrase origins, so your word and phrase origins. And now that I live in Ohio, I give you weird, spooky facts from Ohio on Thursdays. And then I'm usually around. Just reach out to us, archangeltheparanormal@gmail.com. And that way get you involved in maybe one of the events that I run with my partner, Charles Rosenay, the Shaman and the Showman. Again, Connecticut Paracon is July 11th this year. And then all that. So it's going to be good. Yeah. We might see Kent there if you guys want to meet Kent. So I'm at a table with Asia and a lot of the other people that are with Asia under methodical management, like Father Bob Bailey, Bill Slevin, people like that. So we'll have to take a look. We're still in the planning moments and all that. So we got some stuff up our sleeves for you. So other than that, yeah, I'm around. Not that I want to be found, though.
You answered both questions at once, because my second question was what you have going on. So yeah,
lightning rounds.
Yeah, and now that you're in Ohio, you're a lot closer to me than you was before. Yeah. So we definitely need to get together.
I drove through Kentucky because my partner and I, we've been all over the place since December 19th up till now. We've been in 19 different states. Either doing investigations or going to our friends' weddings and things like that. But usually when we stop at a hotel, I know where we're going ahead of time. Hey, we're going to go here because this hotel's haunted. So let's do a live from it, or let's do this. Let's just show people how much fun we have and what Wardruna is all about, what the Wardruna experience is. So 2026, you're going to see us pretty much a lot of these events. Make sure you come and see us talk, come visit our table just to see what it's all about. Visit the website, www.wardruna.net. That's growing. We're getting that a little bigger. It's a Rolodex of people out there to help the living and the dead, whether it be through different things. We have the most diverse group of shamans in the country. You name it, all the different types. Anybody that could help. We have clergy on with us, so any type of help that you need. Certified psychologist, license, everything you could think of. So whatever is needed, whether it be paranormal, whether it be just metaphysical, anything like that.
So the first time we talked on the podcast, not the first time we talked, because the first time we talked goes back like 5 or 6 years. The first time we talked on the podcast, which was 2023, season 1, you made the statement that if I ever moved by Paracon out of October, then maybe I would see Thomas Patrick at my. And guess what?
Yeah.
It's now in September. I moved it to September, so maybe in 2027, you're 5.
We'll get Wardruna down there for you, my friend. So you're not that far away.
No. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you know the 222 podcast. But they're in Ohio. They're actually going to be part of my event this year.
Yeah, because the big thing we have in our backyard this year we're very excited about is the Cleveland Paracon. That's going to be the first year of that. That's September 11th through the 12th. But probably one of the big ones for us is Wardruna because it's so near and dear to our heart. The Hollow Paracon and Film Fest. The main fundraisers for mental health, which is basically near and dear to our heart for Wardruna because that's what we're all about. So we're excited about that one too. New Orleans Paracon is going to be fun. I
haven't committed to that yet, but because ages people besides me that's committed to that. But so I may end up going there because there's New Orleans. A lot
of our events this year are at Hillview Manor in Newcastle. That place is fantastic. It's got such great energy. All the different events. Carrie that runs the place. And Ashley that does a lot of the booking for everybody. Everybody's very nice there. They do lives every Wednesday. We can't wait to bring Culture Swap there. We can't wait to be part of with Johnny Zaffis coming up there. Just the HillCon this year. Opening day is I think March 13th. So make sure you book your investigations. Come to the events. There's a psychic fair there this year. They do a haunted house during October. That's pretty fantastic. So, it's in a more rural area and all that. And anybody that wants to come out, make sure you come out because there's nothing better than a rural area and a haunted area, so it just makes it even better.
Yeah, I'll have to put that on my list because this year I'm traveling where I want. I'm even traveling to New York this year. I'm going to do the Hinsdale. I'm doing the Hinsdale house.
Nice. So if you're doing Hinsdale's up there. My friend Dan Sturgis is up in the New York area. There's a house that he does like the history behind. I think that's more in New York City. I forget what the name of that one is, but I know the Hinsdale is up in more upper state New York. So
it's a nice 14-hour drive for me. But,
Oh, that's nothing. 14 hours is nothing. Come on, stop being so weak on me, Ken. You weak driver.
But so we're actually going to make a weekend of it. We're doing the Hensler House on Saturday, so we're going to stop halfway through on Friday and do an investigation, and then we're going to do an investigation on Sunday on the way back. So
nice. That's perfect.
Perfect weekend, right? So
it's always good to go to different new spots you've never been before and see what different energies you feel. It's an education thing. A lot of times when we diversify what we do, even if we're not doing a home investigation, we're just going and doing an event or something like that. It's always good to do because you never know what you're going to get. You investigate with different people, different energies. So that's always the test scientifically. Okay, the people that are with me, what do they bring out that others don't? So that's the other science side of it too. So
well, I'm going to get off here so I can go eat. But I will tell you, with you guys,
I'm going to make you starve, Kent. I'm going to keep you on until you starve. Lose a few pounds, like both of us need to, right?
So if you guys ever decide you just want to do a haunted bed and breakfast, I have one for you. It's a friend of mine. It's in Missouri. It's Josh Morris is. I had Josh Morris come and do it. I had Aaron G. Thompson do it. It was a 19th century farmhouse, and they renovated it. It's had 13 verified. Yeah. 13 verified deaths there. Wow. Yeah. And
we're right now. We're in an Airbnb that's very haunted. So we brought the equipment just to see what we get over the weekend when we're not at the event and enjoying ourselves at the event. We'll have some fun here with the spirits too and see what they're all about and what they want to tell us about the history.
Yeah, that's kind of like me next weekend. So for everybody that don't know, there will be no podcast next Friday because it's my 20th anniversary. So I'm going out of town, but I'm staying at the Brown Hotel in Louisville, which is haunted. So my equipment will be with me. So that's all I'm going to say.
Is it 20th anniversary with your equipment, or is it 20th anniversary?
It's my 20th anniversary with my wife. My equipment's just.
Is she into this too, or are you dragging her along? No. Oh, you better do something a lot nicer than that, my friend.
when she's into the hotel, and then I'm taking her, nice dinner and everything. She actually told me I couldn't take my equipment, but I'm sitting up, so.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess 20 years is where it ends, right?
Well, the interesting thing is she don't investigate with me, but she's into, like, when I review the evidence and stuff, she's into all that. She loves the paranormal. She just don't want to be there for the investigation.
It's good to have support. Yeah. I'm so blessed that my other half here, her and I are both in the industry. We have, co-founders of the company and all that. And it's just magic to have somebody like that in your life. And just a lot of people in my life. Even right now, I'm in an Airbnb with her and my other friend, Raven Wolf, who's part of Wardruna also. She's fantastic. And we're just out here having fun this weekend at a vampire ball, out of all things. The Undead of Winter right here in Milton, Pennsylvania. There's still tickets left. Make sure you come out and say hi to us while you're walking around. We'll be around with our vampire fangs hanging out. So
there you go. So, all right. So I'm going to get off here before my wife comes and beats me for not eating.
Yep. 20 years is over.
but thank you for being on the show. Everybody will be back the 27th with Daryl Munson from he'll be my guest. Yep. He'll be my guest on the 27th. So tune in to that. Mr. Thomas Patrick, I will see you in Connecticut if not before.
Yes,
because I will be there.
We'll talk soon. Yeah.
We'll talk soon. All right, everybody, stay haunted, and we'll see everybody next week. No,